Hey everyone, welcome back to Unwritten. In today's episode, I have Charlsey Childers, a self-worth and confidence coach, discussing her inspiring story about overcoming self-doubt and pursuing her passions. In this episode, we discuss how she transitioned from a corporate career to finally pursuing her own personal fulfillment out of life. Despite childhood rejection and the absence of a father figure, tune in for insights on how to trust the process, aligning your beliefs and values with your desires to embody success, whatever that means to you. All I ask of you is, if you like this episode and the podcast, share it with somebody that you think would like it as well. And also support the show by checking out the sponsors in the description. Enjoy. Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together. What ultimately led you to do what you do today in like the growth mindset, personal development world?
Yeah, Thomas, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And it's such a joy and an honor to be here. My name is Charlsey Childers, CC for short. And Thomas, that's such a great question to start off with as we dive into this. I know your podcast is all about wellness and mindset and health. And so for me as a self-worth and confidence coach, it might sound cliche, but I feel like my life has led me to this, that I was unknowingly raised for this, in the sense that let's see, to take you all the way back to childhood, since you asked, unknowingly, I really built up these beliefs within myself where I felt rejected. I felt like essentially my dad didn't want to have a relationship with me because I was a girl, and I didn't realize the impact that that had on me. And so it's almost like I was like Linus in Charlie Brown, where I was carrying, this blank or this dust that was following me around, and I didn't realize that. So it affected, as I went into my teenage years, for example. I wouldn't put myself out there. I wouldn't go up and talk to the popular girls because I thought that they were too good for me. They wouldn't like me, that I wasn't cool enough to hang out with them. I wasn't pretty enough to hang out with them. I tend to date guys that, let's see, how do I say this? They essentially matched my self-worth and my belief in myself. And so they were often guys that I felt like I could help and I could bring something into their life in order to be their knight in shining armor and lift them up out of the bad decisions that they were making, because I needed to feel good about myself. And so I portrayed myself as this amazing girl who was coming into the lives of these men or these boys and wanting to better their life. And yes, that was true. At the same time, it was more so about filling a need and a void within me. And so much of the decisions that I made in my childhood went to me trying to feel good about myself, trying to feel worthy, trying to feel like I belonged, like I fit in, like I mattered. And going into adulthood, I had this realization. It was when I was, to fast forward, I was 7 years into my corporate career, and I had this realization that I wanted more than the life I had. On the outside, I had everything all together. I was married to a wonderful husband, and I still am. We had two kids under two. I was making a really amazing salary. We had the house, the American dream, right? But on the inside, I felt empty. I felt unfulfilled. I was still in that mode of
Mm-hmm.
searching and searching and searching. And so that's when I put my master's in psychology on myself and started looking within to discover what was going on. And that's how I started unraveling these layers and becoming exposed to these layers and this cloud of dust that I had unknowingly been carrying around with me. And so that really catapulted me into this wellness, this personal development, this growth space, which eventually led me to what I'm doing now.
That's a great story. Um, where, so you said you felt like the dust was behind you because you didn't feel like accepted by your dad. Um, where was your mom at?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So my mom is
Yeah.
amazing. My mom was a single mom. She, at a time where single it wasn't
Oh, so
common.
your father kind of wasn't in the picture.
Correct, correct. So
Okay.
my dad didn't want to have a relationship with me. My parents were divorced, and my mom did an incredible job of climbing the corporate ladder, breaking through glass ceilings. In
Mm-hmm.
the 90s and the early 2000s, things were just different,
Mm-hmm.
and even harder for women. She did an incredible job, but it wasn't about her. It was like so many of us, when we are younger and in our development years up until the age of 7, that when we don't understand why certain things happened as humans, we tend to insert our own explanation. So that explanation, it doesn't matter if that explanation is true or not. As humans, we're after an explanation. We're after a why. Why did this happen? Why did my dad not want a relationship with me? Why did he not want to be around? Why did my parents get divorced? All of these questions of why. And my internalization of it was because it was me. Something was wrong with me. My parents had a happy marriage up until around the time that I was born. I just started
Mm.
filling in the blanks. And of course, being a child, this can sound crazy as adults. Like, why would you even think that? No one did anyone ever
It's
tell you that?
yeah, cause you
Did
create
your
like this narrative.
Exactly, exactly. But that's what we as children do. And even in adulthoods, because that's just how our mind operates. It needs an explanation for things. And as children, where children are amazing and they're awesome, but developmentally, they're not there yet.
Yeah, they don't know they like you said, they fill in the blanks they don't have a guide to help them navigate that.
Exactly, exactly.
So what made you get into like the corporate world? Did you want to just like follow your mom's footsteps, or like where did that come in?
Yeah, essentially pretty much. I,
Oh,
like
really?
many of us do when we're younger, we look up to our parents. And so I
Yeah.
looked up to my mom that she was doing it. She would
Mm,
work all day. She was beautiful, like she made a really good income and was able
uh,
to, at least provide for us. And I thought that's what I wanted. And simultaneously, because that was her path, she assumed that that would also be my path and that that was meant to be my path. And so she also raised me to go get my master's, if not go get my doctorate, to climb the corporate ladder and bust through the ceilings like she did. And so I had two, inside of me, I had this desire to be like my mom, which I equated to doing exactly what she did and how she did it. And then she was also encouraging me to go along the same path that she did. So I had this internal and external uh, influence going on.
How did you feel like during this whole time? Like
I
influences aside, like how did you feel?
At first, I mean, when I was growing up, I was all about, yes, I'm going to get my master's. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do those things. I was very accepting of the path that had been laid before me. And
Mm,
I never really questioned it. And it wasn't until, let's see, I remember when my first job, I was a server throughout college and
mm,
and grad school. And so right outside of serving, my first quote unquote big girl job was working in a grocery store. And I hated it. I did not fit in. There was just a whole bunch of teenagers, and I was in my 20s. Like I did not fit in. And so that's when I began asking myself questions of, why am I not fitting in? What is,
mm,
continuing with that narrative? What is going on with me for why I can't fit in with these teenagers? And then my next job after that, it was an entry level project management position. And I once again, I didn't fit in with the people I worked with. I did not fit in. So I began asking myself, why am I not fitting in? Why, I kept continuing on with that narrative. And so that's what we commonly do when we aren't satisfied or fulfilled. We either blame things on other people or we blame things on ourselves. So I kept doing this. I kept doing this until I finally realized that maybe it's not about them. And maybe
mm.
it's not about me per se. Maybe there's just something here that is misaligned and off, and that it's like two people speaking two different languages to each other. It's not going to work.
Are you like talking about like the battle like with your inner voice maybe?
Yes,
So it sounds
absolutely.
like you versus you kind of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you ultimately got that like cushy job, I guess, and then you said you felt like you wanted more. Where did this feeling come from of desiring for more, feeling like you're meant to do more?
Oh my gosh, Thomas, you are so deep and you really hit to the heart of it. I am absolutely loving this conversation. I really hope that your listeners are getting so much out of it because you're going there. And so I really acknowledge you as a podcast host for being able to do that because I know that
I
it can be
appreciate
hard.
it. No, it is
Absolutely.
hard. It is hard. It is hard to be a host. You really have
I
to
recognize that. I'm a
be.
podcast host as well, so I get it.
Yeah.
Let's see, if you will. Oh, so where did the more? So I had the cushiony job. I had the quote unquote American dream life, a beautiful house, an amazing husband, two beautiful kids, and these feelings of emptiness within
Mm,
myself. Like I had everything that I thought I was going to have when I was a child. When I was a child, and I would dream of following in my mom's footsteps. And when my mom encouraged me to go get my master's and climb the corporate ladder, I was doing that. I was 7 years in. I was very much in stride of going, literally walking up the ladder. And I recognized that it was almost like the more steps I took, the emptier and more unfulfilled I felt. And so I noticed this, for instance, I love bringing tangibles to my conversation. So, for instance, I started noticing that the Charlsey at work was different than the Charlsey at home. That when I walked into work. I literally felt like I was putting a mask over my face and to be somebody for the next 9 hours of my day. And then when 5 o'clock hit, I was able to take off that mask and be myself. And for a while, I was like, oh yes, this is amazing. It's 5 o'clock. I'm living for 5 o'clock. I'm living for the weekends. But then I realized that I
Yeah.
was pretty much living to be myself and feel like myself.
On the weekends or at work
Just at
or
just
in general?
in life that I really enjoyed. If you can't tell, I have a lot of energy. I
Yeah.
love dancing. I love having fun. And so when I got into my car at 5 o'clock and I would turn on, 90s R&B, or, and I would just crank
Airbnb,
up the music.
Airbnb. Is that what you're
90s
gonna say?
R&B. Started to, yes.
Airbnb. That could be a new business. Like
It could.
go
It
go
could.
rent out rooms that have Airbnb playing or something. I don't know.
Oh my
It
gosh,
sounds
you're
like
hilarious.
it sounds like I don't know the what's it called? Like cliche word, imposter syndrome. Is that is that what it was? Like you were trying to portray yourself as somebody you weren't at work, and then or what?
Perhaps, perhaps, but it's almost from a place of I felt like I had to be a certain way when I was at work. And so it wasn't like I was afraid of somebody necessarily finding out who I really was or something like that. I was just trying to fit the part. Again, trying to fit in, trying to be accepted, trying to get people to see me and notice me. This is just the continuation of the story, right? Of the narrative. And I felt like I couldn't be myself. And so once I really owned the fact that I loved, having big energy, I loved owning my energy, I loved being, just a full extrovert, I loved dancing, I love, all of these things. Why did it have to be either or?
Do
Why
you
couldn't it be one?
do you feel like you were holding yourself back?
I feel like I was, what's the cliche quote of trying to fit a peg in a round hole or
Oh
something,
yeah,
a
yeah.
square hole?
Yeah, that is like the way I interpret that is like basically you're trying to be something that you're not.
Exactly.
Like you don't really
Exactly.
feel it. Like this isn't you.
Right. Right. And so that was really my revelation of what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? Why am I trying to fit in and blend in and be this certain person at work? Like, is that what life is about? Is that what is life about putting on a facade? Is it about feeling like you aren't yourself the vast majority of the time? So that's really the first time when I started questioning the path of wait, why the path? Why this? Is this the way that I really want things to be and the way I want them to go?
So 7 years, and was there like any one moment, or was it like a culmination, accumulation of like these feelings and desire and wanting for more that made you decide to quit that chapter, close that chapter, and start this new chapter?
For me, and I know from like my clients that it can look different, excuse me, for all of us. For me, it was a culmination, but I wasn't privy to it. I wasn't aware of it. I kept trying to stuff it down, to put a band-aid on it, to not acknowledge it, to avoid it. And then it was when, after I had my son, which is my second, and I was on maternity leave, so I had 3 months off and I was going back to work and I went back to work. And then, like, I craved more time with my son. It was very hectic and very crazy to to wake up my 3-month-old son and then my 2-year-old daughter every day, at 6 o'clock, and getting them ready for the day. I wanted to spend time with them. I wanted to have a little bit longer, so I just started becoming more and more aware of, why can't I have that? Why can't I do that? Who says that I can't? What am I buying into here? What am I committing myself to? And so that was really when the awareness, I guess, began revealing itself to me in an undeniable way that I could no longer avoid, suppress, ignore. I had to acknowledge this deep inner conflict, these deep reflective questions that I was having. At some point, hopefully, there's some kind of acknowledgement of what's going on within ourselves, right? At some point, whether it be related to my story of trying to stuff yourself into a path that obviously wasn't really working from an internal perspective, maybe it's maybe we're addicted to something. Maybe we are choosing behaviors that aren't supportive of us. Maybe we are, gaining weight. Maybe we are like, whatever it is. At some point, hopefully, there's an acknowledgement within ourselves of the role that we play in that.
So you decided to quit.
I did.
How'd you feel when you quit?
It was amazing. No, I quit, and my husband was not a fan because,
Like stability or whatever.
exactly, because I was the breadwinner. When I quit, we were, I believe, 10 or $12,000. There was a difference between his income and our expenses. And so to just get
Uh,
by and break even, we were already 10 or $12,000 in the hole. So it was, from the surface, it was very much of a shift in lifestyle of my decision to do that. But I will say, and hopefully this really encourages your listeners in some way, that the very week, well, let me back up and say that I felt so convicted about quitting and leaving my job. I had never felt more convicted of anything in my life. I knew I had to leave, no matter what it looked like. I knew I had to make that decision, even if it meant going against my husband, my partner, my life partner. And so I quit that very week that I left, because there was 2 months between when I turned in my notice and when I actually left. That very week that I left, he met his new boss, was in a room with her for 2 hours. She created a position for him that had never been created in the company. And his promotion was like a 15,000. We went from being 10 or 12,000 under to a few $1,000s over. We were good. We were good. We were in the clear that very week.
that's that sounds like a synchronicity. Have you ever heard of synchronicity?
Oh, absolutely. My day is full of them. I constantly laugh at the synchronicities of my
Yeah,
day.
that's what it sounds like. Like you knew something was gonna happen, and you wanted something to like manifest to help you in this situation, and
Very much so.
it did.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So where are you now?
Ooh. Now, oh my gosh. Now, well, I'm a self-worth and confidence coach. I host a podcast. I'm a talk show guest. I host events. I speak. That's a lot of the stuff that I do on the external. And underneath all of it, it's all to help and support big dreamers and high achievers in helping their journey to their dreams be as fun and satisfying as possible. Because I remember and it has still been like this at times, the journey to my dream of discovering my purpose, of actively walking and living out my purpose and building it. It can be hard. It can be hellacious. We can encounter, you know, heavy imposter syndrome, debilitating doubt. And so I'm here to support big dreamers and high achievers and making sure that their journey is as fun and satisfying as possible.
That is amazing because I'd say I am one of those people. I have big, ambitious goals, at least with this podcast, and eventually businesses potentially. So what are like some real mindset shifts that we need to have to start really believing in ourselves that we can accomplish these big dreamer goals?
Such a loaded question and such a very real question. I can very much relate to what you're saying, Thomas, because when we have this huge vision for ourselves, like you have this huge vision for this podcast, for your YouTube channel, for potential businesses, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like you have this undeniable lion that lives inside of you and is ready to roar, is ready to get out there and really do it, bring it into fruition, bring it into physical manifested form. And for me, one of the biggest shifts was when I was still in the mindset of chasing success, of success being something external of me, of needing to make a certain amount of money in order to be successful, in order to be qualified to speak on a stage in front of several hundred or be on a talk show with an audience of 7 million, that I needed to achieve these certain markers in order to be this person, to be able to be there. And so one of the big mindset shifts for me was going from chasing success to embodying and living the success. And so living from this place of inevitability, living from this place of approaching my work as a form of art, just like a painter would approach his work, from this place of artistry, really, really digging into the beliefs that I needed to cultivate, which also meant shedding that programming and that conditioning inside of me that told me a certain amount of likes meant that people liked my post, or a certain number of downloads meant that I impacted somebody on the podcast. Equating all of these external metrics with my internal worthiness is one of the biggest shifts that has impacted my life and quite a few of my clients.
Okay, so how do we start embodying it though? I
Ooh.
understand what you're saying. Like wholeheartedly. It's kind of like I was on one of my previous podcasts. I was talking to a neurolinguist, and she was like we were talking about our daily mantras, and I was telling myself like, well, if I just do the work, um, it's gonna happen. Like my goals, I'm gonna achieve. My like just do the work. It's gonna happen. Like that's what I kept telling myself, and I think that's kind of how it relates to this. It's like if whatever goals you have to have this like I guess confidence and I don't know what not insanity, but like you have to have this like kind of head space where you're like, well, it's already gonna happen. Like I guess it's I don't know if it's like confidence or like the confidence is built in the work that you're doing that you feel fulfilled in, and that I don't know. I just made a post too about um, consistency, and it's not necessarily like consistency is key, but if you can stick it out long enough, then you're gonna accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. But it's like you said, like you have to, I guess, step into that like future you that did achieve that goal already, and then rewind. It's kind of, I don't know how to like it's very hard to explain, but really I understand what you're saying. But does that make sense? Like you like imagine like visioning yourself like whatever goal you have, like envisioning it, see it in your head, use your imagination, and then do that every day. Like feel that future you, and then rewind. You're okay. You're back to present, and now be that future you.
Thomas, we're tapping into something so powerful, and you better watch out because this is my zone of genius. This is like where I live. So I have three things. I've heard everything that you've said. I have three things. So for me, in the simplest form of what does it look like to embody success is aligning your beliefs with your desires, because this is kind of going into number two, which you were talking about your actions, which yes, action is amazing. Consistency is amazing. But if we're not believing in ourselves, then that's going to affect our actions. We are going to show up from a place of needing results, needing validation, needing money to come in. And so is what we're doing, is the podcast episode that we're creating, is the YouTube video, and the words that are coming out of our mouth, are they coming from a place of true service and truly being captivated by purpose and being in flow? Or are they coming from a place of, I'm doing this in order to get somewhere because I feel like if I get there, then I'm going to feel a certain way about myself? And so, yes, we can have consistency, but if you're taking consistent action from a place of disbelief and unworthiness and a true lack of inner confidence, then your action is going to look like a completely different color than what your dream is meant to look like. We are literally going to taint our very own dreams and vision with our action because it's the energy at which we're coming into it. That we're not, so when we can align our beliefs and our desires, which is very much an everyday, a practice thing. It's a lifestyle, especially for big dreamers, because as big dreamers, we are constantly rising into new levels. We always want more. We always want to get further, to make a bigger impact, to make more money, in order to be able to travel, in order to make it even bigger. Like there's always more. And so as we are rising into those next levels of more, we are constantly going to have to evolve our beliefs with our desires, because as we rise, we are going to be exposed to things that we need to decondition, we need to deprogram from our belief system and from our nervous system. And so kind of going into point number 3, that for me, and this is just me, but let's say if I try to envision myself as the millionaire helping millions of people, like I envision and like I know for myself. But if I sit here today and try to imagine that and try to picture what that version of me is going to look like, what her day looks like, what action she takes. For me, there was a disassociation and I felt a resistance inside because I'm not making $1 million yet. I'm not helping millions of people yet. And so if I try to step into that, then my mind is going to create this dissonance and resistance in order to protect me from that. And so that for me, I was working against myself by trying to visualize, by trying to look at my vision board every day of this jet or this stage of thousands and thousands of people, that it's almost like me looking at my vision was a trigger because my beliefs weren't aligned and are not aligned to that level just yet. And that's not a bad thing. But for me, it's about embodying, truly embodying what are the beliefs now. If I can accept, first of all, if I can accept and believe that my desires are inevitable, that my vision is inevitable, just getting to that belief alone is tremendous because we have a lot of times so much external evidence of why that isn't the case. We have so many instances in our lives, people who have told us that we can't do it, that we're not going to get there. You know, when we do something, when we take action and it doesn't work out the way that we wanted to, then we tell ourselves, oh, I guess that just wasn't good. I guess I missed the mark on that one. I guess that post didn't resonate with those people in the way that I thought it would. What can I do? What can I say the next time in order to help it resonate, help people get it, help understand it, rather than coming from this place of, oh my gosh, this post just came to my heart. I just received the inspiration for this post. I'm going to put it out there and I don't give a flip who likes it because to me that is irrelevant because I can fully know and trust in the journey and in the process. So having that much trust in yourself, having that much trust in your actions, being in that alignment with it, and then getting to the place within yourselves where you are willing to really look at your beliefs with each and every single level that you want to go so that you can intentionally choose the beliefs that you want to have that are in support of your desires. I think I'm done with my TED Talk. You didn't know you were getting this energy this morning, Thomas, did you?
No, you could tell you're very passionate about it. But no, I hope anyone who's listening understands what she's saying. And I can completely understand. Like it's like you have to kind of be realistic, I guess, when you're in that starting position. And then as you slowly like begin to make progress on whatever it is, you can also start expanding your beliefs. Is that kind of
being really realistic? What do you mean by that?
Like you were saying, if you don't believe that like in yourself, or if you don't believe that you can do that right now or do that yet, is that like kind of like being realistic with your position, your current position?
maybe so something just came to my mind, and maybe this will help me articulate it.
Mm,
So Catherine Zenkina, who is a manifestation coach, she is really well known. She references the ladder of believability. So
mm,
we can know our big desires and even have a vision, have a magazine cut out on our vision board of what those big desires are, but building the beliefs incrementally that are going to lead up to those desires. And so constantly knowing where are we in terms of our beliefs, not according to the external matrix of what it looks like and the external of what people are saying, of how many downloads, how many subscribers, how much money, those types of things, but knowing within yourself of where your belief is. So when you can be so aware of, yes, I believe that, or no, I don't believe that. So for example, I'll use a belief. Let's see. Everything is adding up and stacking up is one of the beliefs that I have conditioned myself to believe, meaning that there is always a continuation, that everything is working out for me, that no matter what it looks like, we are going forward. There is no falling behind, there is no getting lost, there is no being off the track or on the wrong track, that everything is adding up and stacking up. And so when you just heard that, Thomas, if your mind accepted it, if you internally were like, everything is adding up and stacking up, yeah, heck yeah, everything is adding up and stacking up, then that is an indication that you are in alignment with that belief. But if something inside of you was like, everything is adding up and stacking up, no, it is not. My results are this way. It does not look like that. Or I need to check my Instagram to see if that's the case. That's an indication that you're not in alignment with that belief. And there's not a judgment. It's not from a place of wrongness. It's a place of awareness, because the version of you, the Thomas who has built several businesses, for example, that version knows that everything is stacking up and adding up and everything is working in his favor. But where are you now? Where's your belief system right now? And being aware of that, and then having enough objectivity and neutrality within yourself to be able to say, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to be, because I want to be. And I know that version of me down the road believes that. That millionaire version of me, or that version of me, believes that. So focusing on that belief and tapping into that belief.
So how do we, I guess, start to let go of these external expectations and external validations that I guess could be indicators of what we're striving for when it comes to whatever your success is? Like, how do we just do the work that we want to work on, but also, like, let's say you have this goal, but isn't some form of the goal an external, like, expectation, or no? Like, how do we, like, I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to, like, articulate it for the audience.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
how, I know it's like you have to, like, with me, for example, like, this whole podcast and everything, I just have the intention to provide value and have honest, fun, deep conversations that I find fulfilling, and I hope my audience finds valuable as well. And you also just have to trust the process and trust yourself. But I also have like these goals that are in itself a form of external uh, validation. So how do we keep doing the work without getting discouraged that we're not maybe reaching these certain goals within a certain amount of time?
Yes, such a great question. Such a great question. And for me, so yes, a goal is an external thing of my podcast being a top 1% podcast, for example. That is an external. And a lot of times that's what we think of goals as being, as something external. Whereas for me, my work, how I coach my clients is really getting us to this place where we focus more on who we are being inside of the goal. So the goal is external, but who are we being along the way? Who is the Thomas that gets to the place of having a top 1% podcast? What is he doing? How is he feeling? Is he stressing out over this episode and this episode? No, that's do or die energy. You know what I mean? That's attachment. That's focusing on the very short term and not being committed to the longer term goal. Is that Thomas? Who is that version of Thomas? So focusing on really getting to know that version of Thomas who has a 1%, a top 1% podcast. So not necessarily visualizing him or anything, truly embodying that Thomas from an internal standpoint of beliefs. What does he acknowledge himself? Does he celebrate himself? Does he view his work as art? Does he know that what he's talking about in the episodes he's putting out, regardless of the amount of listeners, does he know that it's impactful because it has been impressed upon him to impact people in this way? So do you see, hopefully, and I'm checking in with you of the examples I've used, do you see how for me, like it's way more than visualizing, because visualizing puts yourself further down the road
Yeah,
and it reminds you of
it's
where
like
you are not.
it's like always at like arm's reach kind of, and
Exactly.
you don't feel like that's you.
Exactly.
So you have to
Exactly. And you're
do it now.
trying to almost like put that version of you on you, like you're trying to be Joey and Friends and put on a whole bunch of clothes all at once.
Mm.
And it's not about like inviting him in or putting on his shirt, putting him on like a suit or something like that. It's like embodying him and coming from this place of truly loving the process, truly trusting the process, truly trusting yourself, truly, having the aligned standards for yourself. Because how could you being if you're that version, how could that not lead you to the top 1%? Like there is no way when that's what manifestation is. That's what law of attraction is the energy that we bring to things. We are attracting more of that. So when we are bringing this energy and this embodiment of truly, truly, truly believing that our success is inevitable and that we are here to freaking make a humongous impact, we can really embody that and feel that deep conviction, that deep inner confidence within ourselves. How could that not be manifested in our physical reality? Because that very idea goes against universal law. It's not possible. But when we are sitting here trying to visualize, trying to try on this version of ourselves. If I try to think about a version of me who makes $1 million and flies a jet, I don't know, just throwing out ideas, my mind is instantly like, no, you're not. No way, no how. That freaks my mind out. You know what I mean? So no amount of visualization, no amount of scripting, no amount of repeating affirmations is going to convince my mind that I have a jet sitting in my yard. Like that's not going to happen. But the version of me who believes it's possible, the person who knows it's possible from this deep place of inner knowing, the person who shows up in alignment with that, who shows up authentically, who shows up consistently, not from a place of force, not from a fake place, not from a place of, I need this podcast to blow off the charts in order to blow me up, that type of thing. But when we're truly coming from this place, then we can't not get that. We can't not experience those things.
And what's that place that you're coming from?
The believability, the inevitability, the being the person who, being the person who creates those results, creates those businesses, impacts people in that way. It's not about trying that person on or trying to be that person. It's literally about truly becoming that person at a subconscious level, because 95% of our day is dictated subconsciously. But if we are, trying to make, let's see, what's coming to me right now is that if we are trying to make that version of ourselves, like if we're trying to convince our mind that that's who we are, if we are trying to convince ourselves that that's who we are, if we are taking a certain action or investing in a certain business because we think that that's going to lead us to that person, like doing those things at a very conscious level, that doesn't work. That doesn't translate, right? Because of how we are as humans is 95% of our day, of everything that we do, is subconscious. We drive places and we don't even realize it. We brush our teeth. We don't even really think about brushing our teeth. Like, we just do it. So becoming, I guess, what we're talking about here, that quote unquote future version of ourselves, becoming that person now at a subconscious level to where we don't even think about it, that it's our default set point. I don't have to think about my choices. I don't have to try to make certain choices that a millionaire, for example, is going to make. I don't have to try to do anything because I just know subconsciously that's who I am.
What's one thing that somebody could do to get into that mind?
Write down your goal, write down your vision, and then write down all of the list of reasons of why you can't do it, of why you can't have it, of why you aren't worthy of it. And try to do this from a place of non-judgment and not shaming yourself or beating yourself up for having those thoughts. Because not only is that awareness, you're bringing what's subconscious into the conscious by asking yourself those questions. And then you are starting to poke holes at those things. And you're starting to really dig into why I don't feel like I can have a top 1% podcast, because those are the beliefs, those are the snakes, so to speak, within you that are going to rob you of your dreams. You know what I mean? And myself included, we all have this. But if we can embrace those parts of us, of admitting to ourselves of why we think we can't, then we put ourselves in a place of power because we can do something about it. But it's
what I meant. I think that's what I was getting at when I was saying being real with yourself. That was the point I was trying to make. Like, once you're real with yourself and your position, then you can it's kind of like you take 2 steps back to make 4 steps forward. You have to see what you're really doing that's holding yourself back, being real with yourself that's holding yourself back in order to make the progress that you want to make.
And for me, that's not a one-time thing. It's not a every 6 months thing. It's a
Mm,
daily thing. For
daily.
example, yesterday I was more tired than it was just a,
Yeah.
kind of a sleepy morning when I could have easily gone back to bed, could have easily turned on Netflix. That was just the vibe that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But I know those actions, that belief, that standpoint is not in alignment with my desires. Not saying that I can never do that, but I just know from an awareness standpoint that I know that it wasn't my body telling me that I needed rest. It was just me like letting the fact that it's cloudy outside, letting that affect my energy, right? And so asking myself, first of all, if I stay in bed, if I go to sleep, is that in alignment with my desires? Second thing, why am I feeling such a temptation to give into that feeling? What is going on inside of me? What am I entertaining that I'm telling myself for why I can't show up? Why I can't continue to take the kind of actions that I needed to take, which I'm building a program right now. And so a lot of my world is centered around program creation. So, like, why did I feel like I couldn't take action on the program? And so that was me poking holes in it, but you might not say that that was me holding myself back, because that's just a Tuesday when you wake up sleepy because it's cloudy and rainy outside, right?
Yeah.
So once I was able to check in with myself and realize I was feeling tired because purpose wasn't running through me in that moment. I was kind of in the space of what day is it? What time is it? What am I doing today? I was disconnected from my vision. I was disconnected from, and nothing negative about that, right? That was just like a momentary thing of how I was feeling. And so once
Mm,
I was able to tap into, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, this is why I'm going there, then, getting back into alignment, and not allowing it to be like that.
what about somebody who's pursuing their goals? They reached goals, they reached their dreams to a certain extent, and they still get discouraged about that expanse, like you were saying, like you climb one mountain, there's another mountain. What do you tell that person that feels discouraged?
Such a beautiful question. So, from my world, that is completely normal. That discouragement is a sign that there is a next level trying to come through you, that there's another iteration, there's another place to go, there's more people to impact, there's a difference, more of a difference, or a difference in another way that is being called through you. And that discouragement is a sign that your beliefs are not in alignment with that desire. So, to that person, first of all, knowing that you aren't feeling discouragement because you can't do it, because you don't physically have the capabilities of it, or because it's not possible, you aren't worthy of it. It's because your internal world isn't totally there yet. And as
Mm,
our dreams and desires evolve, our belief system has to evolve. Because so for another example, let's say we are entering in, I don't know, a $500,000 business. Let's say our our business is climbing to profit, $500,000. That's the first time we've ever experienced that, right? And so if it is, then there are going to be other things that come up within us that we haven't encountered yet because we haven't needed to encounter them. There's another edge for us to work through. Our external desires evolve, our internal beliefs need to evolve also. So doing that work. So essentially just keep going, keep doing the work, keep going from like a taking action standpoint, keep doing the inner work of discovering what beliefs aren't in alignment with your desires and working to embody that level of success.
So let's say you feel discouraged and also you feel stuck. The same thing, or is that different? Like, let's say you you're discouraged and you were doing the work, but now you've kind of like hit a crossroads where you don't know if you want to keep doing the work or if you just want to give up.
So I heard several things in there of what you said of if you feel stuck. So that isn't, first of all, from my perspective, being stuck or feeling stuck isn't a physical condition. Like we aren't literally stuck to the floor. We aren't literally stuck to the chair, right? We aren't literally stuck. It's a feeling inside of us. It's thoughts inside of us that have generated so much momentum that it's creating that feeling of where the heck do I go? What the heck do I do? Why am I even doing this? What do I even want to do? And this feeling of like wandering around in the woods. And so recognizing that that's what that feeling of stuckness is, of a whole bunch of thoughts and feelings that aren't serving you, essentially. So like peel the layer back like an onion, like what's going on underneath that. And then you discover that what's going on underneath that. And maybe you're feeling stuck because you haven't seen what you want to do. You haven't seen it done before. And so it's discouraging you. It's causing you to feel stuck because you don't know the how. You don't know how it's going to look. You don't know how to get there, those types of things. So then you can do the inner work in that area. And then the second thing I heard of you say, like you're discouraged because you don't know if you want to keep going or you don't know if you want to pull back and quit. And for me, when I heard that, it was, what is your vision? What is your mission? And what is your purpose?
Go back to your like why or what?
Essentially, like go back. What is the, not
Why'd
just
you
why
start
you're,
it? Like why'd you start it in the first place?
not necessarily the why, but like, what do you feel called to? What is your legacy that you're here to create? Not necessarily, because I feel like sometimes the why behind starting a business can be to provide for a family, but that's kind of weak. Like, of course you want to provide for your family. You know what I mean? Like that's weak sauce. There's something, it's not the business. The business is just the entity or the vessel for that calling. If you're truly called to something, then it's about the calling. So what's your calling? What's your legacy?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. That's kind of like surface level.
Yeah, so
Like yes, it's understandable you need to take care of your family, but there's more.
right, there's more to it. So what, like, why are you here? Asking yourself those esoteric questions, like, why are you here? What is the legacy you're trying to leave? What are you really trying to do in this world? And then
Short
when we
life.
can, then when we can look at it from that place, hopefully you can either see like, it doesn't really matter if you do a business or a podcast, or it's like those things are just the physical channels of how that calling is coming through. And so if you don't know whether you want to start or keep going, Well, it's a matter of kind of what your calling says.
Yeah, you do. You really do have to ask yourselves those questions and start exploring them. Like, don't just ask them, actually, like, go out and try them out and then see how you feel. And oftentimes when I feel stuck, it's usually just like an overwhelming problem. Like, it's like, oh, you have so many things you need to do and you feel overwhelmed that you don't want to do any of them, so you feel stuck. So
I totally get that. It's like you're trying to accomplish Mount Everest and you feel like this little dude at the bottom of Mount Everest. how do I,
yeah, like, what are the tools you need to get there? What's the first route you need to take? Sometimes it's just that overwhelming feeling. And that when you like list out your top 3 things that you can prioritize and do the first one, that'll help. That'll give you your first tool that'll help you take that first step in whatever direction you want to go in.
yes,
No,
that's,
you keep looking away like you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, just say it.
I kind of do because it's so, especially as high achievers, especially as go-getters, especially as driven people, we're so used to putting our doing first. Like, if I want to get there, then what do I need
Oh
to
yeah,
do
like just
to
take
get there?
action. Yeah.
Just take action. But from my perspective, it's about the alignment first and foremost. So if you're feeling like your dreams are way too big for your britches and that it's way too overwhelming, you don't know how, deal with that alignment first. What will get you back into alignment? Again, going back to those thoughts, what are those things you're thinking in that moment? Because the second we start asking how or when, if we are anchored in inevitability, then we aren't going to ask those questions. And if we do
Yeah.
ask those questions, then we can swat them out of our way like they're a little fly. Because we know it's irrelevant, right? Because we know it's inevitable. So if we know it's inevitable, we don't need to know the how. It's about, you see the difference between that alignment and that action? When we're relying on our action to get us somewhere, we certainly can. There have been numerous people in this world who have hustled their way, sacrificed their way, dogged it out. And some people really like that approach. They really like that method of, I think of David Goggins. He is a chiseled man on fire, and he truly believes in sacrifice and don't acknowledge your feelings. Like, just get up and do it. That kind of hard mentality. And certainly that is a way you can do it. I'm just saying my approach and the way I coach my clients
There's a softer way to do it. You don't have to.
alignment. It's not just softer, it's more fun. It's more satisfying. It's easier. Like, for instance, okay, for example, I wanted to post today on Instagram, but I hadn't sat down. I hadn't physically done the action and asked myself, what am I going to post today? So rather, I put that off a little bit because I knew I had this podcast. So, just in my head, like, okay, maybe I'll get to that later. But this morning, I spent my focus on getting into alignment. I took a shower. I meditated. I, got to this good feeling anchored place of being connected to my calling. And then as I was blow drying my hair, I got the inspiration for the post. And so I instantly stopped drying my hair and I went to post it. And it was like that. It took me, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes to edit the video. But like, I already knew the post in my head, right? Took me, so it took way less time and it was way easier. So rather than going into this podcast thinking,
Like I have to
After I
do
get off
this.
this amazing conversation, I have to sit down and
Yeah.
plan out and think about what I'm going to post. And maybe I'll be there for 30 minutes. And then maybe I will get on Instagram and I'll get caught in the scroll. And then I'll start comparing myself. And then maybe I'll come back to actually doing that post. And by then it's been 2 hours and I haven't even posted. And I want to post and I'm beating myself up. And now I'm mad at myself because I've wasted 2 hours trying to figure out a post. You can do that. Sure. Sure. And I've been there. I've been there so many times. For me, let's get yourself into alignment. Let's get yourself
Mm.
into that place of inevitability where you feel connected to your calling, where you know you're walking in your purpose. You're feeling good about yourself. You're showing up as that quote unquote future version of yourself. Boom. There's a post.
I think I completely agree with that, and I also think in that process, setting your intentions, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like
That's a really good point.
if you do it with whatever intentions that align with you, um, I guess at least in like the social media world, you're not like deterred by various forms of feedback or expected results. You know, if you like, let's say I make a post and I have the intention for people to maybe laugh at it, but also have like I try to add like humor, because I know not a lot of people, I mean a lot of people like to just hear the hard truth, but I like to like add humor to my post. So like I have the intention to have somebody see this post and maybe gain some insights, but also have a little like laugh while they're um so yeah, if you have the right intentions, I think it could help you become more resilient to these expectations that you set for yourself. Or if you're in social media and you build a following, the feedback, the inevitable positive and negative feedback that you'll get in social media.
Absolutely. And Thomas, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but if you want to make a post that has some humor to it, it's going to be a lot harder to do that if you're not feeling humorous. If
Yeah.
you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like, holy crap, I had a goal and I missed a goal, and just being like kind of down on yourself or discouraged, it's going to be a lot harder and a lot more forced, from my perspective, to create that post. And even if you do, there's a good chance that it might not fully sound like you. It might not,
Yeah.
because you're not being like truly authentic. It's not the, it's the,
Like
there's a
forcing
flow
it.
to it there,
Yeah.
right? Whereas when you prioritize the action first, from my experience, there can be this element of force and pressure and have to and shoulds, and that's seriously great if that can if that motivates you, if you truly feel like David Goggins, for example,
Yeah.
if that truly is in support of him, if that method of doing things is truly in support of him, then that is amazing and it is
Mm-hmm.
great. For me, no. No.
Yeah.
That does not resonate. That does not. I have lived there literally for my first few years as an entrepreneur, like forcing myself. I need to post today. What am I going to post? I need to post right now. Having these expectations, like for me, that just, no, clean it up, make it feel easy, make it feel fun, make it feel like you, like when I was talking about, when I felt my corporate career, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to feel like me. I wanted my life to feel like me, not forced, not like a facade, like not hard and heavy, but fun and
Yeah.
satisfying.
So I have a quote. I don't know if it's from you. or you took it from somewhere, but I wanted to hear your thoughts and
Okay.
explain it to me. So, greatness is realized by those who dare to explore the depths of their own magnificence.
Hmm. Dun, dun, dun.
Is that you?
Yes.
Did you? Is that somebody else?
No, it was me. It was me and ChatGPT. It was me and Chat.
No, I like it.
Yeah. What,
What does it mean?
when you obviously went to my website, what came up for you when you saw that?
Oh, you're asking me first.
Yeah, yeah. Time for me to flip it around, Thomas.
Greatness is realized by those who dare to explore. I think it's about giving yourself the freedom to that life is short, take risk, um, explore yourself, do things that feel good, do things that are new, do things that are scary, and that it's only when you allow yourself this freedom that you can achieve greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was my intention behind creating that quote is our life, our greatness that we pursue, the greatness that we live and breathe every single day be a natural byproduct of the
Mm-hmm.
essence of who we are. And so when we can be bold enough to explore those depths because our dream, it's not about the dream. It's about the person who we become and the person our dream is calling us to be. So the version of me 3 months ago, like there's still more layers. There are always more layers. So being bold enough to explore those layers within yourself and doing it over and over and over because there literally is so much magnificence within us. So much. And at the same time, we are constantly being conditioned by life. Life is constantly shaping us into, oh, it should look like that. You should take those actions. This will lead to your results. You know, we're constantly hearing things like we're just being surrounded by things that are not us, are not true to us. So when we can prioritize going within ourselves and looking at that magnificence and being constant seekers of what that magnificence is and being in alignment with us, then poof, we just pop out. Greatness is what comes out of us. You know what I mean? It just flows. It exudes. It radiates.
Well,
You didn't know
I
you
hope.
were having a baby today.
That's what I was thinking. You're funny. But can I need to use the bathroom real quick. Can I
Yeah,
like
go ahead. Go
pause
ahead
for
and
like
pause it.
a minute or so?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can
Perfect
use the
timing. Bye.
bathroom too if you need to go.
Oh, I'm good. My son just texted me, so I want to listen to this.
I'll be like 2 minutes.
You're good. You're good. Do you think there's any thing that we can clarify, elaborate on, go into deeper? Or you feel like that's good?
Uh, no, I feel like we covered everything I wanted to cover.
Good deal. Well, let's go in a, yeah, go in another
All right,
direction.
you ready to play
Switch
this
it up.
game?
Yeah.
All right, it's completely random, so hope you're prepared.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So if you could read this, so you read this one first, the blue one, and then it goes with this one.
share something risky. And the other one is my story of heartbreak. All right. So first you want me to share something risky?
No, so it combines. So
Oh, share
it's
my
like
story of heartbreak. Share something risky, my story of heartbreak.
yeah.
So risky when it came to heartbreak? Is that what the game?
Yeah, it suggests basically something risky, maybe that had to deal with a
Landed
heartbreak.
a heartbreak?
Yeah, related to heartbreak. Something, a
Mm.
risky experience, maybe, when you were facing heartbreak.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is a really good one. This is completely random.
I told you.
So, what's coming to me? What's coming to me? So, what's really standing out to me, and I don't know why, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it, is that there was this guy I dated in high school, and we dated for 2 years. He very much fell under the umbrella of somebody I was trying to essentially save. He was making really bad decisions, um, involved with drugs and stuff like that. And I thought that I could be the knight in shining armor to come in and, love him enough to cause him to change. And that was the risk. The risk
Mm,
was trying, the risk was me putting myself in that situation, putting myself in that relationship and around somebody in hopes that they would change, in
yeah.
hopes that they would become someone they weren't at that time. I felt like he was the person I wanted him to become, but in those years, he was not that person because he constantly made bad decisions. He was, constantly doing drugs. You know what I mean? He was, um, and so that was the risk of me
Trying to
putting
change
myself in
somebody.
that. God,
Yeah.
excuse me.
Trying to change somebody.
Trying to change somebody at the expense of myself,
Mm,
at the expense of who I am, because him doing drugs, him being in those environments, I was an accessory. I was in those
mm,
environments. So, in taking the risk of trying to change him, I was unintentionally changing myself, even though I did not partake in those drugs. I did not partake in those bad decisions, but I was there. I was there.
yeah.
And yeah, it did not work out. It did not work out. He did not change. He did not. And so it literally became several situations of where I could have been in trouble. I could have, gone down the rabbit hole of that he was heading on with getting arrested and surrounding myself with those people and making life altering decisions like not graduating high school, those types of things. And thankfully, it didn't. Thankfully, after several of those situations where I almost got in that kind of trouble, I was like, I can't do this. I cannot surround myself with you anymore.
I had
This,
something similar to that.
you did? Let's talk about it. Talk about it.
uh, so I was a freshman. It's the girl I lost my virginity to. Yeah, 14. It's young. She was 15. She was a new student that just came to high school from New York. And she had a boyfriend. And she kept staring at me every day in the hallways until one day I came up to her and was like, Do you want to hang out or something? Like, why do you keep staring at me? Long story short, that led to us like just like skipping school all the time together, um, smoking weed, and then eventually she cheated on her boyfriend with me. And then the scary part is like a couple months after it was like summer where we stopped seeing each other. Like that summer, she ended up getting pregnant. Yeah, and I was so scared because I was like, wait, we only did it like one time. Like, what the heck? And it only lasted like a minute. So, like, so what the heck?
Have I just completely changed my life over 60 seconds?
So, yeah, that was like a risk. Something similar. Like, it was a risky situation. She ended up having like 2 teen babies, like, with the other dude. Because she like went back for the summer to New York, and yeah, it literally could have changed my life, which is crazy. So yeah.
Wow. Isn't it crazy how, I mean, I dated this guy for 2 years. So from when I was 16 to 18. And then when I was 21, he passed away from an overdose.
Oh wow.
And like, if I hadn't have gotten out of there when I did, if I hadn't have broken up with him, like 3 year, and we just continued dating, kind of like what you were talking about with the pregnancy, like how
Yeah.
quickly things can change and how important timing is and the timing of everything. And obviously, I mean, when we were together, he was smoking weed and doing coke, and he passed away from heroin. So obviously,
Mm,
he just further went down that rabbit hole.
yeah. Crazy, crazy
Man,
stories.
we both completely, what's the saying? We dodged a bullet there.
Well, I still ended up having kids pretty young. Like, I had my twin daughters um, with my ex when I was 24. I'm 29 now.
Better than 14.
Huh?
Different. I don't want to say
Oh yeah,
better.
10 extra years.
But definitely different 10 years later, I'm sure.
But Cece, are you ready for these last questions?
I am. Throw them at me, Thomas. Throw them at me.
What's your biggest regret?
I have, and I'm not just saying this because it's a cliche or a cute Pinterest
No
quote.
regrets.
I have really, really, but I've worked at that. I've worked at having no regrets. I've worked at making peace and forgiving myself for doing things like dating a drug addict, thinking that he's going to change. Like, I've really come to terms with that. I've really come to terms with the fact and forgiven myself for literally 30 years of carrying around this deep-seated rejection within me that affected so many of my decisions. So I really, yes, it's cliche, no regrets, but man, I have like hours I've spent on myself, thousands and thousands of dollars I've spent on myself to truly come to peace and to have no regrets and to be able to live in that satisfaction of where my life is and who I've become, because without any of these things that have happened, good or bad, they would have changed my like who I am currently. I wouldn't be this the image, and I speak in visuals, so I envision us like a cake, you know, the cake. If I hadn't have any I would be the cake. Had any of the ingredients been different, you know what I mean? If I didn't have the right amount of quote unquote eggs in my life or flour, like the cake
Sugar.
that I'm currently living in would taste different. So I truly have worked it. No regrets.
What's the flavor?
Like a strawberry cake, like a moist strawberry. It has to be done right, because strawberry cake can be really dry. What about
Does
you?
it have actual strawberries in it, or is it just like
Oh,
the
yeah.
flavor?
No. I'm in the South. Like, we're definitely going as real and farmers market strawberries as we can here.
Where are you located?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's kind of close to my brother.
Where's your brother?
Charleston, South Carolina. Huh?
Where are you?
Austin, Texas.
Okay, cool. I love Charleston.
Yeah, I need to
I used
go
to live
visit.
there for a year.
Yeah, it's nice over there. Since you don't have any regrets,
Pivot.
what is... I think I'm gonna start implementing this, because a lot of people say that, but just in this conversation today, I found a rebuttal. Since you don't have any regrets, what's one thing you'd tell your younger self today?
I like that one, because, yeah, I really like that one. Oh my gosh. How old? Just pick an age.
Well, I don't know how old you are, so I don't know.
Oh, I'm 38, so anything younger than 38.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to like be disrespectful or anything of your age.
Oh, you're good. I don't. If somebody perceives that it's disrespectful, that's on them. That's an insecurity within them. I fully own 38 and
That's true.
walk it like it's hot. You know what I mean? I love being 38 so far. I just turned 38.
That's
a
crazy.
couple
That's
weeks
the
ago.
same age as my older brother too. You're born in 86 or
I was.
yeah, 86. Let's say my age, 29, almost 10 years ago.
Oh, 29. Oh my gosh. So at 29, my daughter was a year old, and I was pregnant with my son. Still working in corporate, trying to make it all work. Oh gosh. You picked a really like a juicy year, you know what I mean? And a juicy age range. If I was like 16, I know it, you know, that was easy, but at 29 I was like in the thick of it. At 29, I would tell her uh, first of all, that despite how it looked externally, in the sense that when I was 29, I had just lost my grandmother. My daughter was 1, so very much in that baby stage. The house was a constant mess. I felt like I could never keep it clean. I was pregnant, waddling around. So, like, just hoping that she knew how wonderful she was. And to know that, like, first of all, enjoy the season, because I'll never have one kid again. So enjoy that time. So know how wonderful you are. Enjoy this time. Yeah, and start listening to yourself. Start listening to yourself, because I was asking myself those questions then of, is this
Mm,
it? But I was ignoring it. I was still in the
yeah.
ignoring phase. So I would love to shake her and be like, you're wonderful. You're doing a great job despite your house being a wreck, and listen to yourself.
Back then, did did you have a cake?
Did I have a cake? Like, oh, a regret? Or
No. Like, was your cake made, or was it just eggs and flour back then?
oh, yeah, totally. Totally. I don't even think it looked like it was forming a cake. It probably had eggs and broccoli and cayenne pepper. Like,
It was a
oh,
savory cake.
oh.
No.
not, not even there. Not even. I had not even scratched the surface of the awareness and the inner work and seeing my magnificence. You know what I mean? Of going back to the quote on my website.
No, I think that's a that's a good point, because it's only been like 9 years and you've made so much progress, it seems. And people, I guess it goes back to this saying, it's like you underestimate what you can do um, in like a year, or you overestimate what you can do in like 10 years or something.
Mm-hmm,
Something
mm-hmm.
like that. And you can make so much progress if you just stick with whatever you're doing and pursuing in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that long. If you live to 100, that's like 10% of your life, but you can accomplish so much in 10 years.
I am a completely different person than I was 9 years ago, than I
Hmm.
was 4 years ago. I'm my
Every
husband.
day.
So we've been
Yeah.
together for 17 years, married for 12, and he says that he feels like he has been married to 1,000 different people, because the version of me is constantly changing.
I think that's a
three
good
months
thing.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's good.
I agree. I keep him on his toes, baby.
What about him? Has he been
He's
changing
had
too?
he's had a couple shifts, but for the most part, he I'm a firm believer that our that we're called into the personal development space, and like doing the inner work. Like, we're called to the inner work. Like, I was called to looking within myself when I was, how old was I when I left? So I was 30 when I left corporate.
Hmm.
So before then I wasn't called to, quote unquote, dig into my
Yeah.
past or look into why I felt like I was a misfit. But when I was 28, 29, 30, I was very much called. And I don't feel like my husband, like, I don't feel like he's been called. I mean, he's inspired by it.
Mm.
He definitely, listens to podcasts and stuff like that. But this is one thing I love so much about big dreamers and high achievers, is that our dream is constantly causing us to evolve. It's constantly bringing us
Mm.
into another layer. Right now, my
Yeah.
husband is very much in the space of, he believes that everybody has a purpose, but he doesn't know what his purpose is. He doesn't know what he's passionate about.
Uh,
So, therefore, he has no reason to look at the depths within himself, other than, like, to try to keep up with his wife.
and
He's
have
not, he's,
stability.
he's not fueled by anything. He's very much good. He's really, really good at what he does. He's an expert at what he does. And so who he is serves him in the season he's in.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying. I don't think everybody, honestly, like I love doing this stuff, and I believe it's part of my purpose. That's why this whole podcast is like the mission. But I honestly believe not everyone has to, like, you're not obligated to find the purpose and live your purpose. But I think everybody has some sort of purpose in them, and they can bring more purpose into their lives and what they do every day.
Very well said. And I believe that roles look different. So why couldn't my husband's purpose be to support my purpose?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I am
That's
very
what I'm
much
saying, yeah.
of a leader. I'm very much of, I'm out there. You know what I mean? I know what I'm creating. I know the magnitude of what I'm building. If he was also building something of magnitude, maybe that's not how our marriage is meant to look. Maybe he is meant to, maybe part of his purpose is to support me and mine, which is an amazing purpose. It's amazing. And so it's not, the journey isn't necessarily going to do the same. At the same time, I know just from his life, his parents have been together from the time they were 16. Like, so he didn't grow up with the same daddy issues, for lack of better words, than I did. Right? So, maybe I know that my daddy issues have served a role in what I do now and in the person I am now. So I fully believe that I needed to experience those things in order to be the cake that I am now, going back to our analogy, and I'm also a firm believer that my husband, based on his purpose, that he hasn't experienced, something like that. So that's not like a necessary thing for him to have to overcome. You know what I mean?
I think it just starts with asking yourself those questions and looking at, like, for me at least, I can't speak for anybody else. For me, I don't know, I started to think of, like, all those existential questions, like, life is short, what am I here for? And I always like felt back onto, like, I can, I don't know, pursue something that I think is bigger than myself and that can impact people's lives in a meaningful way. And that's what, like, ultimately led me to doing a podcast, because I don't know, I love it. I love doing it. I love speaking with new people every week, and I'd love to, like, do more in-person ones eventually when I have enough money. I'd like to, like, fly people out. We could have, like, a studio session and a dinner or something with all my guests, and to just impact anyone who listens, like from this conversation, like, they can get something from it that may light that fire in them, or may guide them in the way that you felt kind of unguided in your late 20s. Yeah.
It's really good. Really, really good. I see that. I see that. I feel that. I feel that.
I feel it too.
It's yours.
But I do want to finish these questions. I have three more questions.
Okay, I'll answer. I will try to be short and sweet.
No, you don't have to. Honestly, we can, as long as you have enough time.
Yeah.
But my next question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life that makes you who you are?
My dad not being there.
Really?
His absence. Both in a negative way, quote unquote negative way, and positive way. Absolutely. So I've definitely, for the amount of times I've thought about that character and the amount of times
Character.
I have talked about him, the amount of work, the amount of money I have spent and tried, like the amount of tears, like, yeah, for sure.
Was he
for sure.
was he in your life like ever, or was he like completely out of it?
He was in my life here and there until I was 7 years old. And then when I was 7, I decided I didn't want to go back to his house anymore. And then he popped back into my life when I was about 13. And he randomly called and said he wanted me to come live with him. Yeah, he didn't. From his actions, he didn't want to be there.
Like, yeah, be fully there.
Yeah. It's crazy. And then
Well, I had a similar dad. My
You
dad.
did?
Yeah, my parents divorced when I was 3. But it'd be my older brother, for perspective, he'd be like 10 or 11. So he was like 10 or 11, I was like 3. And then he, like, I always tell people this, like, from 3 until like the day he passed away, which was the same time we had gotten pregnant, which is like so crazy because he passed away, and then a month later me and my ex found out we were pregnant. But during that time, yeah, during that time I had only seen him like a handful of times, like less than 10 times. So it was kind of similar. But I never really got to know him enough to have like real daddy issues. My daddy issues was like, when I have a family or kids, I'm gonna be in their lives. So it was like the opposite. Like, I'm not gonna see my kids a handful of times and not feel obligated to be there for my children, even though there's 4 of us that we barely got to know him. So I always told myself, like, that was my daddy issue, was I'm not gonna do that when I have kids.
So you know who you're not going to be.
Yeah.
That's a great motivator.
Yeah. But
It's interesting. It's interesting how, different events can have different effects on us.
yeah, I think it's mainly your childhood. Your childhood can, like, it's so short. It seems like it's so short and so long ago. But I think a lot of your childhood makes you somewhat of who you are today.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that.
But my next question is, what's one lesson you had to learn the hard way?
Just any lesson in life, any life lesson.
Yeah.
Hard lesson. This is really random and it doesn't seem like a hard lesson, but it's coming to me, so I'm going to say it. And it's very truthful and it can very much apply to a lot of different things. But a hard lesson, or a lesson I had to learn the hard way, when it comes to working out. I, in my 20s, well, even when I was a teenager, I would lift weights because my mom lifted weights. When I was in my 20s, I ran because I felt like I had to run in order to stay skinny. Like, I've done HIIT, I've done just different workout things. And so I finally, and it was all about like, I had to do this in order to be this type of person. I had to lift weights in order to be like a muscular, not like muscular per se, but fit and tone. You know, I had to be a runner in order to be skinny. I had to do HIIT in order to like keep up my endurance. You know what I mean? Literally, like I said, I'm 38. I've been working out since I was 16. And just within the past year, I've admitted to myself, I hate this stuff. I hate running. I do enjoy lifting weights, don't get me wrong, but like, I'm done following somebody as amazing as it is. There are amazing fitness programs, amazing fitness apps, but like, I'm going to do what I love, and I'm going to work out and spend that time because I love it, not because I'm trying to get to a certain goal. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. Like, I always tell people, if you want to start your fitness journey, find something that you can do consistently and that you find fun.
Yeah,
so
and that you could
biking, yoga, walking, whatever.
Yeah, and I know it seems like a silly example, right? But I mean, that's literally 12 years or 11 years of my, wait, no, way more than that, 21 years of my life that I was literally working out on a consistent basis, not enjoying it, and forcing myself to do it. Now I row. So I have a rower, and I do yoga.
I do yoga too.
Yeah?
Yeah, before like every podcast, I do like downward dogs, and I try to do head stuff to get like blood flowing in my brain.
That's so good.
Because I feel like, I don't know, it just feels good, and it feels like I have more brain flow for a podcast.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to start trying that, Thomas.
Really?
Yeah. I usually do yoga. It's, usually like in workout clothes, in my gym.
Oh, no.
It's like a whole thing, but
yeah, like 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes of like some downward dogs, the best headstand I could do, or like, I do like the wide ones, where you stand, like your legs are like wide, I guess, wide stance, and you bend like all the way down. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Are
you
your head
standing
is like,
up?
Yeah, you're standing up
in
a wide stance, and your head is like pretty much in your crotch.
Yeah. That one feels good. That's a good stretch.
I do that one too for like a minute, and I'll do that like 3 times just to get like the blood flowing.
It's so good.
Because I feel like,
yes.
I mean, and you feel it too. Like, you feel the blood rush to your head. But it's like I feel like it's like a good feeling. Because, yeah, you're like upright all day, and blood isn't flowing to your brain all the time, so.
Yeah. Genius, Thomas. Seriously.
I don't know. There's something about it.
Seriously. No. Wow.
Just try it, I guess. Just try it.
I will.
I'll do that, and like I'll do like some breath work. Like I'll do some Wim Hofs, and sometimes I have like a nootropic energy drink, something with like not too much caffeine, and with like a bunch of nootropics in it, like lion's manes and mushrooms and.
That's great.
Just stuff to get this rusty brain going.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love your practices.
My next question is, if you had all the time and money in the world, what would you be doing?
What I'm doing right now. What I'm doing right now. having this amazing conversation with you, building the program I'm building. Yeah, the exact everything.
That's awesome. Me personally, I would be there in person with you. And probably some, like, I envision like my podcast, like I want a nice studio, but I also want to have like traveling podcasts where like the background is like nature or something like that's just something like I envision my like the future, where you have a conversation but like you can see like the sky and fields or something. I don't know, that's just something I envision.
That is so cool. So
But
cool.
Cece, is there any last thing you'd like to share with the audience to resonate?
Yes. I don't know what that is, but I'm definitely going to capitalize on that opportunity to be able to pour into your audience. And so I'm just going to do what I usually do and let it flow. And that is what's coming to me right now, is encouraging your listeners to do what they love. And not from a place of doing, but a place of truly loving the way they work out, truly loving what they eat, truly loving how they're caring for their bodies, truly loving the way they spend their time and the way they are spending time with their kids or their family or their friend, truly loving the process, truly loving, like, so not from this place of doing, but just focusing on the love, focusing on what you can cultivate, and how you can spend those moments, how you can spend your time, and who you become in those moments, and who you're being in those moments.
Charlsey Childers, everyone. Go check her out. Is there anywhere people can go check you out?
Absolutely. The best place is Instagram at Charlsey Childers. And then if you just want to snoop me out, listen to my story, see what programs I've created, just, go to charlseychilders.com.
Go check her out, everyone. And as always, stay curious, keep going. You got this. Peace.